and we have another fantasy football rankings video coming out for you guys. And today we're going to be talking about my top 15 tight ends that I have ranked for fantasy football. Very excited. Mock draft season is coming up. I have a couple of drafts going on. If you guys have drafts as well, now's the time to watch. Check out some rankings. And yeah, I'm just going to go through from my 15th. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Starting right over here. But before we look into the top 15 that I got going on here, I wanted to show you guys a couple of the honorable mentions. A couple of these rookie tight ends very much interest me as we're going to get into them. We got Harold Fannin Jr., a very fun prospect coming out of Bowling Green. Not too much looking to draft him this year, but if you're in a dynasty league, he would be a very fun option for the upcoming years as David Njoku is aging. Probably going to end up needing somebody new, so Harold Fannin Jr., he's going to be very fun. I like the number 88 on him. Mason Taylor, it's basically the same thing with him for the Jets, except he's going to be the tight end 1 on the team, I do believe. So this is Jason Taylor's son as well, so he's got that, athlete mentality and athlete genes in his bloodline. As we look on to Colston Loveland, one of my favorites out of all of the rookie tight ends outside of Tyler Warren. I just think the position that he went to, going to Chicago, if he had ended up going to almost any other team, like maybe seeing him to the Broncos or something like that, to play with Evan Ingram, then you would see a lot more production out of him. But playing alongside Cole Kmet, I do think he's still going to be a weapon, but at the end of the day, you can't draft him too high because he's not going to see a lot of work in an offense that just got Luther Burden. They have Rome Odunze, DJ Moore, and then Cole Kmet as well to throw to in the tight end room by itself. Right there. So he is only 21 years old. Another player, 3 of those guys, target for dynasty leagues, but I'm keeping them outside of my top 15. Tucker Kraft as well. He had an interesting, fun year last year. I had him in one of my leagues. And he had a couple of really high games, the 27.8 against Los Angeles, and a couple of double digits in there fell off closer to the end of the year. He's not going to crack my top 15, but he is still a fun option, and the Packers are going to, continue throwing his way. Starting at number 15, we get to Jake Ferguson. Jake Ferguson, just, he's kind of fallen off. He's had his issues with injuries, as you can see here, 3 games where he's out. But at the same time, he just hasn't been producing at a high level. I do think with Dak Prescott back, he's going to end up going for a rebound year. And the year prior to the one that he just played, he was playing at a very good level, getting a decent amount of double-digit games. But at this point, he's just kind of a shot in the dark if you're looking to take somebody in the later rounds. He's still a starting tight end on Dallas, now alongside George Pickens, CeeDee Lamb. I could see a whole lot more production coming from him, especially having Dak Prescott back in the fold on offense. Jake Ferguson, kind of a bit of a buy low, sell high type of player. Dalton Kincaid, a lot of people writing him off after what was 2 years or just 1 year. I want to say 2 years that he's been in the league. Rookie season, performed somewhat decently last year, didn't perform too much. Yeah, this is his year 3, so I am decently high on Dalton Kincaid, and I think he's only going to get continued production in this offense as well. Khalil Shakir out there, you have him. Outside of that, you don't really have anybody. Amari Cooper, he walked free agency. At tight end, who else? You got Dawson Knox. I think Dalton Kincaid is in for a monstrous season, and if you're drafting him based on his ADP at this point, it is really good to draft Dalton Kincaid, and he's right in the same tier for me as a player like Tyler Warren. Both of these guys, solid tight ends. I would take them in the later rounds. I feel like they're going to put up similar stat lines, similar production. Tyler Warren, same thing for him. He is the tight end 1 on his team. I don't expect a crazy rookie season, but I at least expect some level of consistency out of him. But Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones throwing him the ball, they're going to want to make way for that tight end. There's not too many options in the receiving game, although they have Michael Pittman and Josh Downs. But at the same time, being able to load up to your tight end is something any team wants to be able to do. So Tyler Warren, watch out for him. And especially in dynasty leagues, you got to target young players. Tyler Warren is definitely one I'm looking at, especially being a big Penn State fan. As we get to, let's see, 15, 14, 13. Number 12, Dallas Goedert for the Philadelphia Eagles. He is entering his 8th NFL season. Struggles a lot, as you can see, with injuries. When he is healthy, he tends to put up decent numbers outside of this 0-pointer against Cleveland. And in past years, Dallas Goedert has been an absolute weapon. He's going decently late in drafts now. They pretty high ADP, yeah, like decently high. He's still kind of a buy low, sell high type of candidate. He's in one of the best offenses in the NFL, but at the same time, works against him at times as they're throwing the ball to Devontae Smith or even Saquon Barkley, A.J. Brown. So, but at the same time, you can see an increased workload from Dallas Goedert this year. There's nobody really to battle with besides those other receivers. So, having Dallas Goedert in fantasy may be a good idea. I would not take him as my starter personally, although I know some people that are decent, he's a decent sleeper, so they're going to take him and have him start. But at the same time, me personally, I would take him, let him ride the bench, see how he ends up doing, whether he has a good season with the Eagles or, falls off in a way. They do usually end up drafting new tight ends around this time, but Dallas Goedert is still their guy, so watch out for him. The guy that I do have a little bit above him would be Brenton Strange. And Brenton Strange I'm decently high on. He's one of my more sleeper type of players in this draft, in this fantasy football draft, not in the NFL draft. But we all saw how Evan Ingram, he came from New York, ended up playing in Jacksonville. He balled out. Brenton Strange, I think we've only just seen the surface of what he can do. In some of these games, he showed a lot of potential to 12, to 10, 18, 10. Other games, Evan Ingram was synced in there, and Jacksonville as a whole was just having massive problems with literally everything within their organization, owner issues, and quarterback issues as Trevor Lawrence went down with injury. I think you start this new year off fresh. Brenton Strange was an absolute baller at Penn State, is a baller, stays a baller. I would definitely take him with that ADP of 168. And some people may say you're crazy. How are you not drafting Dallas Goedert over Brenton Strange? And I'm just like, it's the weapons that are in there. I know they have Travis Hunter and they have Brian Thomas Jr. as well, but at the same time, Trevor Lawrence needs to be able to throw to his tight end. He loved throwing the ball to Evan Ingram, so he's gonna love throwing the ball to Brenton Strange as well. I feel. I think he is in for a massive year, and if there's one guy that a lot of people are sleeping on, it's Brenton Strange. I like him a lot. David Njoku, just have him a bit of in a higher tier, as he's had more of these really successful games, the 23, 17, 19, 26, 17. He is a very fun tight end who each year surprises. Like, there was a couple years ago where he wasn't even, a top tier tight end. Now I do consider him in my top 10. He's just a special tight end, like I said, kind of a method of consistency. When he's not injured, he's putting up really nice games, and whoever's throwing the ball to him in Cleveland usually ends up wanting to throw to David Njoku, who's been one of the only consistent options in that receiving room over the past few years. So I like David Njoku. I would draft him. He's going a little bit high based on the ADP at this point. I would still maybe draft him, if it ends up coming around to the 6th, 7th round, perhaps. Jonnu Smith starts getting into our top, 8, 9-ish, moreover. And I liked him a lot better knowing when he was on the Dolphins. Now he's going to be splitting those reps a little bit, moved him down my board a bit with Pat Freiermuth. Although I do think he's the better tight end in the room. You go down here and look at his stats. He had an absolutely awesome year with Miami. I think I picked him up in waivers the previous season. Started the year off slow, then got a couple of these games going. 32, 23, 22, 13, 19, 12, 11, 18. Jonnu Smith was an absolute beast for fantasy football last year, and who outside of Arthur Smith would have thought that this dude would absolutely ball out? Not me. He was sitting on waivers for a reason. But at the same time, I like him a lot for this season. I like the fact that he's going to be playing with Aaron Rodgers, slinging him the ball. But at the same time, I think if he was on Miami, you'd have that increased draft value just based on how he did last year. We'll see how he ends up splitting those reps with Pat Freiermuth. But I have Freiermuth way further down my board at the moment, although I still have to fix up some down near the top 20, top 25. But Freiermuth is, pushed down a lot. Jonnu Smith taking over that role. TJ Hawkinson. And TJ Hawkinson, this is kind of a bit of a take, comes back last year from injury, and he struggled a lot. I do think a full year away from that injury is going to give TJ Hawkinson the boost that he needs, the ability to be able to play, and JJ McCarthy throwing him that ball as well in the offense is going to be something interesting to watch. But I think most years TJ Hawkinson is a top 5 or so tight end, so I think last year, you just take him and he's like a fish out of water. He suffered a torn ACL in 2023. He missed weeks 1 to 7 before finishing up the rest of the season. I just think you needed to give him some more time to recover, honestly. Torn ACL, not going to come back and be perfect. But this is really kind of taking a bit of a shot in the dark, and I'm going to say TJ Hawkinson finishes the season as maybe about a top 8 tight end. If not, he could fall out of even the top 25 range. He could play horribly, but it's all going to have to depend on how he recovers from that injury. For me, I have him in my top 8. Sam Laporta. Early last year, it had looked like he had really fallen off. 8, 3, 5, 9, 15, 16, 15 in there, but a 4 and 3 as well. Finishes the season off with, 6 straight double-digit games. I like the upside around Sam Laporta. You have Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, Sam Laporta, Jared Goff. He's going to load the ball up to Sam Laporta, and I think if you're looking at his rookie season in specific, I know tight ends weren't very valued that year, and they weren't having a good year, but at the same time, he finished as the tight end 1 as a rookie, I do believe. So Sam Laporta, a lot of people are sleeping on him. His ADP is a little bit high for me right now, taking a player that is more risky and you're buying into that extra value that you don't know if you're going to be able to get. So I do think there are some better options if you're working off ADP. But if he's sitting there and he fits well with the rest of your team and you're saying, Sam Laporta, I feel like he's going to bounce back a little bit more, and I trust that consistency that he showed at the end of last season, and, you're hoping to see another version of his rookie self out there, then I would say, yeah, definitely pull the trigger on Sam Laporta. I trust in his upside more than anything, but it's kind of another thing like TJ Hawkinson. Does he come back? Does he play at that high level? Or is he more of a mid-tier tight end, a mid-round option? I could see some of these guys who are lower down here, Dalton Kincaid, Tyler Warren. I could see TJ Hawkinson, Sam Laporta, Jonnu Smith even falling out, and some of these tight ends ending up in the top 7, 8 area, taking their place. That's honestly what I could see. Even in future years, Colston Loveland, I do feel like he's going to be a top tight end, but that's why I say pick him up in dynasty leagues, because this season he's just too much of a split workload. Then we get to Mark Andrews, and the one thing I did not understand last year is Mark Andrews, I know he had a couple of bad games. He was struggling with some injury issues. He was coming back from that. Very touchdown dependent. But at the same time, starts to pick up near this area, 9, 15, 20, 14, 4 in there, but at the same time, 18, 15, 18, 10, 13, 14, 15. Finishes off the year with, 6 straight double-digit games, just as I was talking about with Sam Laporta. And then he had a couple of other double-digit games in there as well. He was off in waivers in my league, which is absolutely insane to think about. Mark Andrews, he's still a top tight end. He's still going to play at a decent level. Where his ADP is going right now is just a lot low. Would you rather have Sam Laporta based on his ADP, or would you have Mark Andrews, who's, just a tight end catching, or a touchdown catching machine? I know Laporta was like that in his rookie season. Mark Andrews is on a different level, and Lamar Jackson doesn't have a lot of players to throw to. He has Zay Flowers in that offense, and it's basically Zay Flowers and Mark Andrews and Derrick Henry if he's catching passes out of the backfield. Rashad Bateman, perhaps, on the deep threats. But Mark Andrews is one of the main options on that team. Isaiah Likely is a nice one, too. But at the same time, as I've said, this is the tight end 1 right here on the Ravens, and I love Mark Andrews, and he may struggle with the injury issues from time to time, but he's still top 6 or so tight end. It's the same reason why we consider Travis Kelce in that tier. Evan Ingram, and this may be a hot take. A lot of people might not agree with this. I think Evan Ingram finishes the season as maybe even a top 4 tight end. That's as high as I would put it at this point. It all depends, once again, just like TJ Hawkinson and any other tight end that struggled with injury. Dallas Goedert, that goes for you as well. Pat Freiermuth struggles with injury. But because of that, if they weren't struggling with the injuries as much, I could see these guys being such better players. In every single game that he was healthy outside of the first game of the season, which was an absolute disaster for the Jaguars, Evan Ingram was popping off. I mean, the 7 and the 8 aren't the best to look at, but every single game that he's healthy, he's putting up a decent amount of points. Him in Denver, Bo Nix throwing him that football. I thought he would have been really nice having a Colston Loveland type guy learn under him, or, just any rookie tight end. But he is taking the reins, and it's going to be him, Cortland Sutton, and a trio of like Marvin Mims and Troy Franklin and all those guys out there. Evan Ingram is going to be a phenomenal target for Bo Nix, who loves targeting his tight ends. Doesn't matter who it is out there in the offense, he loves targeting the tight end. Evan Ingram, man, top 4 finish this year. That's going to be my hot take. A lot of people might not agree with it, but I think he proved himself in those years in Jacksonville in comparison with the Giants. I just think he is going to be an elite option for fantasy football, especially based on touchdown value. I know he wasn't crazy with that last year, but I think get him down to the red zone, and he's going to do awesome for the Denver Broncos. Kelsey, really, I definitely could see Kelsey falling off, but look, he's got the 20-point games in there. He's got the double-digit games. I definitely see him ending up finishing the season more in just the low-end top 10 range as a tight end. But, based on his ADP at this point, he is falling down decently. 3rd, 4th, 5th round I've even seen him going in. In Dynasty Leagues, you could pick him up really late, end up using him for, as a championship contender piece, because he's still going to put up those decent numbers. I don't like him in comparison to the other top 3 guys, but at the same time, Kelsey, once a beast, always a beast. And he's just stayed consistent despite his age. Mahomes is obviously going to throw him the ball. Rashee Rice, there's talks about the suspension. So what, it's Xavier Worthy, Travis Kelsey, and Marquise Brown out there? Travis Kelsey's getting a decent workload. There's no doubt about it. Him and Evan Ingram are almost interchangeable for me at this point. But Travis Kelsey gets that number because of the healthiness. And this is kind of the season I could expect out of an Evan Ingram if he was fully healthy. But at the same time, Travis Kelsey has proven it. He's stayed healthy, he's stayed consistent, and he is a top 4 tight end for me for this 2025 to 26 season. George Kittle could be even higher on my list. Honestly, he might just deserve to be. I mean, look at Trey McBride is just so consistently good, though, and Brock Bowers is on a whole nother plane in some of these tight ends. George Kittle, though, awesome. These top 3 tight ends, they're the best that it gets. He was the best possible option last year for the 49ers in the passing game. Yeah, Deebo Samuel, he did not do anything. Jawan Jennings and George Kittle were the guys. Brandon Ayuk, he fell off, so did Deebo. Those 2 guys, George Kittle and Jawan Jennings, they did phenomenal for the 49ers. Then you just look, so many 20-point games in there. George Kittle was an absolute beast. He's a beast in the blocking game. He's a beast in the receiving game. And he is my number 3 tight end for the 2025-26 season. If you're just looking for a guy, wouldn't take him in the dynasty, obviously, with his age. But taking him in the regular league, where his ADP is at right now, is totally worth it. He is a stud. Trey McBride, my tight end from last season. He's got a 30-point game in here. I take 30-point games very much into account. Only 2 touchdowns on the season. Technically, he had a carry for a touchdown, so 3 total touchdowns on the season. I know you look down here and you see a couple that you see the 8 and 5, but for the most part, he stayed consistent. And in fantasy football, that is so important. Having a consistent player that will win you games week in, week out. Obviously, having high scoring point games, that is very important too. But inconsistency can kill you. Say your guy has a very good final week of the season, and then the wild card round hits, and they throw up a 5-6 point stinker. Then why do you want that player? Consistency is the most important thing when playing fantasy football. And Trey McBride, he was evident of this last year, making him the tight end. So I think him, Kyler Murray, going to pop off. Would love to see it. As we get to Brock Bowers, my tight end 1 on the list, there's no question about it. I want to say he put up, 31 points. Brock Bowers, unstoppable. He is in a tier of his very own. And, if you're looking for the guy that's going really high right now in drafts, it's Brock Bowers. Looking for the best tight end in all of football, it's Brock Bowers. Playing for the Vegas Raiders, him and Genti are going to be very fun on that offense to watch. And he was a decent method of consistency last year, 6, 8, 7, 5, 7. The only games where he, kind of missed out. But outside of that, he's got a 26, a 19, 18, 31, 20. Absolute beast. But that is going to be the end of this one. Top 15 tight ends. Hope you guys all enjoyed this one. And obviously my rankings are probably going to shift around, but I have some mock drafts that I got to get through, and then I have some actual fantasy football drafts that I want to do as well. So we will see how that ends up changing. But yeah, that is going to be the end. Let me know down below. Do you guys agree with my rankings? Do you not? I know they're a little bit weird, but at the same time, I like who I like, and I don't like a couple of other guys. And then there's some high upside guys that I'm really counting on as sleeper options. So yeah, but that's going to be the end of this one. I will see you guys all for the next video, probably playing some more college football and getting ready. Madden coming out soon, so that should be very fun. But yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one.